Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brothers Take podcast. Chris and Eric again, back in the room. Hey,
Hello.
what are you laughing at?
Just you with your
They took our jobs.
They took your jobs. Yeah, very good, very good.
It's the two of us again. Adam's not yet back from his epic honeymoon at time of recording, so it's us again this week. But we should have Adam back next week. Hey.
Hey.
But if this is your first time listening to us, you haven't a fucking clue who Adam is.
He looks like us.
He looks like us. He's the third brother.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Brothers Take, everybody. The podcast that we release weekly where we give our take on video games, primarily. However, we do also deviate into other things that we're interested in, such as movies or TV shows or sometimes music or whatever else captures our interest. And in this week's episode, myself and Eric have decided, given that we have just passed the year anniversary of Resident Evil Village, which was actually the Brothers Takes game of the year last year. All three of us, it was our favorite game last year. And we had a lot of content around that, so you can check that out. But given that we've just passed the year anniversary of Resident Evil Village, we've been thinking about it, looking back on it with fond memories. And one of the things that made that game so special was it was so reminiscent of Resident Evil 4, which was the first Resident Evil game any of us really played, and was such an important game, not only for Resident Evil as a series, but for gaming in general. I mean, Resident Evil 4's influences could be seen all over various games, such as Dead Space, even Gears of War with the camera angle, and all sorts of other things. Mm-hmm. So we've decided, since they have a lot of similarities, we've decided to pit them against one another, their various elements against each other, to see which did it better. Not necessarily which is the better game overall as an overall experience, but just in those certain things that they had, which did each element better. And we'd love to hear from you guys as the discussion goes on. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please jump down in the comments to share your thoughts at any point throughout the discussion. If you enjoy this, why not give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell for all future content. If you guys are listening to us on audio platforms, and you can also touch base with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take to give your take on Resident Evil Village versus Resident Evil 4. But without further ado, let us descend. Okay, so to start us off, Resident Evil Village is called Village.
Yeah.
And the first place we visit in Resident Evil 4 is a village.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose when Village was first announced, that was the first thing everyone thought. It was like, oh, is it going to be like Resident Evil 4? Mm-hmm. And it was. Which game had the better village? Which game, whether that's like from a design perspective or just the way it was implemented within the game, but which game did the village better?
Okay. All right. Okay. Breaking this down now. When you're saying the village, okay, are you just counting that open world sort of village area that you keep going back to, the epicenter of the map? Mm-hmm. That's what you're talking about.
I think so.
All right. And then with Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
When you mean village.
Yes.
Are you talking about pretty much the first house you ever go to all the way up to when you're going into the church or the castle?
Yeah, it would have to be, wouldn't it? Because that would be the entirety of the village.
Yeah, so in that case, Resident Evil 4 would probably have the better village.
Right. Why?
That it's larger.
Mm-hmm.
You have that town area, that little kind of cluster of houses and stuff like that. You have the kind of the town center, I suppose, right? But then you also have the you have the house in the countryside. You got the big manor off to another side. You got a big farmhouse. You got a mining area. You got a church. You got a swamp area, and you have houses and stuff dotted all over this place.
Mhm.
So therefore, when you're seeing, and you can so very clearly tell this is a much bigger area. You definitely probably don't explore the entire regions. There's probably definitely way more houses. Might be another cul-de-sac somewhere else that you never go to. Maybe a takeaway or a chipper. You have no idea. But
your local bookies.
Yeah, local bookies, a pub. So therefore, when
Bingo.
You're fighting... Where's
everybody gone? Bingo.
Bingo. What a line. What a way to introduce the title. It then makes sense to how there's so many villagers.
There is an awful lot of villagers.
There's an awful lot of villagers, and the area is quite big. Very clearly, the village is quite big.
Mm-hmm.
But with Resident Evil 8, that's the whole village. So where the fuck did everyone come from?
Yeah, especially when you, with how many Lycans you fight.
With how many Lycans you fight. Yeah.
It's like, wait, where did all these guys come from? Why is that factory so big? So
such a huge factory.
Massive.
We weren't including that.
No, I know. I'm right with you that I think Resident Evil 4 has the better village based on everything you've just said, but also it feels like a more lived-in village. Given that,
yeah,
I suppose it's a village that you can walk into and feel like everything's normal, but also get a sense that something is off.
Right.
And the longer you stay there,
the more
you will then realize there's something really wrong with this place and there's something really wrong with these people. But at first, it just looks like people who are a little bit back in their ways. Yes. Versus in Village, when you get there, immediately it's like, this place is fucked up. I should leave.
Yeah, I mean, right? You got I think with first time in Village, you have like a dead cow that's there and it gets dragged away and there's like a hole in the wall, like as if it just kind of exploded or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the first introduction to... Oh, and even when you go to that house, remember it's nighttime, you're just walking through the forest and you're absolutely crapping yourself.
Oh, I remember.
You know, the first house, and there's just the blood smeared across the floor and you have to follow the blood trail. You're like, why?
Yeah.
But in Resident Evil 4, the first place you go to is a house and the guy is just stoking the fire.
Yeah, and you ask him a genuine question. Have you seen this girl? Because she's been seen in this area.
And he has a genuine reaction. He goes, you startled me. And he tries to hit you in the axe.
He was well within his rights. Leon S. Kennedy was trespassing in that poor man's home.
Yeah.
And he had a gun. Leon had a gun. This man was acting purely out of self-defense. And when he got murdered, the rest of the village tried to stick up for their fellow compatriot.
Yeah. They heard gunfire and they're like, what the hell's going on? Yeah.
We banned guns here. It's a very misunderstood society, really. That's
they're actually the good guys.
The more that Leon kills, obviously, then they call on their armed police, which is on the island.
Of course,
because there's a mass murderer massacring these poor villagers.
Even the poor like poor caretakers of this of the museum, well, not the museum, but the old castle. You have all these caretakers.
That's a historical
site, yeah.
And he's going around blowing it up.
He's breaking all their ornaments, all their vases.
He has no regard for
He destroys their giant statue.
Yeah, he fucks up the Nutcracker. Okay, well then, speaking of castle, actually, another element that both games have is a castle. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, which game did the better castle?
Probably. I think I would prefer 8.
I'm right with you again. Okay, so I get your reasons first. So what about 8? It's a smaller castle. Like the one in 4 is definitely bigger. But what did you like about Village's castle so much?
I think because it was smaller. I think it was smaller. I liked its unique enemies of having the weird vampire creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that, and I liked that uncovering that mystery of the vampires, and then you find out the reason, and the reason's very cool too as well.
Yeah.
And then there's Lady Dimitrescu. I mean, she was great.
Right, and actually that's an interesting parallel where the Lord of the Castle in Resident Evil 4 is the smallest character. and the lord of the and a male, and then the lord of the castle in Village is the exact opposite in that it's a very, very tall female. But come on, like Salazar is interesting and all, but Lady D is just like she took on a life of her own in a way that nobody was expecting.
But like my only gripe with them is, and I've said this before in the last one, was the voice.
The accents.
No, her performance. Yeah, it's the accent. Sorry, her performance is amazing because Salazar is really cheesy and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a cartoony kind of villain.
Very cartoony. Really. And the castle does go on for ages, and the giant statue is a bit like, no, where did you get that from? Fucking hell. That's so unrealistic, having the giant statue moving.
This game is nuts.
So that would be my only issue, is that Lady D and the daughters and stuff don't have the Eastern European accent that they're supposed to, that I suppose they're supposed to have. But I just think it's so nicely confined. It doesn't, you know what I mean? You can get through it and you can explore at your own pace. And if you are, it doesn't feel really long. Like the village is quite long. And then the castle is, again, really long. And you can't get to the point where you're going, now, where did you even keep all this? Like, who built this freaking train that goes through fire? What is this? Why do you build it on lava? What is wrong with you? The housekeepers just did a terrible job. So that's the thing.
I prefer the castle and village as well because I felt like it had a lot more character. You get to know it a bit more because you keep going back around it and exploring it a bit more. But also, I thought that when you get to the castle in 4, and don't get me wrong, lots of cool shit happens there, and it is a cool element of the game, and there's lots of cool enemies there. But I did feel like there was a very sudden tone shift where suddenly it felt kind of like a different game to the village.
Yes. Okay.
Versus the one in Resident Evil 8, I thought was like, it fit right in. Like it felt natural. It felt like this is the lords of the village.
Yeah, because it, like, fighting the Lycans felt very Castlevania. Well, like that kind of Transylvanian, and then you're in this castle, these vampires.
It's very much Dracula's castle. It's even got fucking gargoyles and everything. Like it's really gothic in its design. I think that's it as well. It feels like it was explored, or not explored, a little bit more. Like more research was done around what would a castle in this era and in this vibe look like, versus the other one kind of was just like a medieval castle. This is what medieval castles look like. And it's like, but like, is that what a Spanish medieval castle of a particular era would look like? Like, it's like, I don't know. It just felt like a generic castle. It could have been anywhere. Could have been any castle anywhere. So I thought the one in Village definitely had more character. But another element then to bring up that both games have is a cult.
Yes.
Both games feature a cult, a religious leader, churches with their own symbols, and actually they both have very interesting icons. And, which one did the cult element better?
4, I think, did the cult element better than 8, because I mean the cult element was there. Everyone worshipped what's her name again?
In Village?
Village.
Mother,
yeah.
What the shit. I was about to say Mother Teresa. Well, that's not correct, because she's a lovely lady.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the name of the villain from Village? Does that not actually say something that's wrong with the fact that we can't remember that character over the other bosses and stuff?
We can't remember her name.
Mother Miranda.
I knew it was alliteration. I knew there was
Mother Miranda. Yeah.
Right. So Mother Miranda, everyone worships her, and she's there, and she does great things. She does miracles, and then all of a sudden starts killing everybody. What? Like, compared to 4 is a way more believable cult. Yes, there's a supernatural element of the parasite, but it's very Sadler comes along and convinces the higher ups, I have this great power, follow me. And then through influencing the higher ups, that convinces everyone else, and then it works down the line, and that's how a cult would spread.
Did they not also dig and find the parasite?
They did. Yeah,
Yeah,
they did
yeah.
dig and find, but I think like that was through Sadler's guidance. But at least the way Sadler's going about manipulating everybody and then, put the parasite into Ashley Graham and then wanting to send Ashley back to America, and that would then spread the parasite again through there. It's all like an allegory for how a cult would spread, spreading the word of parasite. So I think the cult was done better in 4 because it genuinely felt like, yes, this could be a real cult in the back arse of nowhere in Spain.
Well, I'm right with you again, Eric. I think
God
the
damn
cult.
it, can we disagree on something?
Maybe we will at some point, but at the moment, I'm right with you that I think Resident Evil 4 did the cult better, for a lot of those same reasons. But I felt like the story worked around that a lot more. So in 8, I suppose there is a cult. We're not really sure what their beliefs are. It's shoehorned kind of towards the end, and if you watch the credits, you can piece together that Mother Miranda was a healer of some kind, so that's why they had faith in her. But it's not quite so we're not quite so sure as at what point did she turn against them and why. Yes, she's building an army or something, but why is she building an army? Because realistically, she wants to, bring back her daughter. So what has any of the rest of it got to do with it? And it just gets a little bit like, don't get me wrong, amazing experience that game, and we all said it was our favorite game last year. But one of the things that we did kind of find kind of hard to wrap our heads around was what exactly towards the end, what was the story really? Like, what was it really about? Like, we got the story, but it was a little bit messy. Versus in 4, it's very simple, and sometimes simple is better. There's this guy, he's put a parasite in everyone, he controls everyone, he wants to spread.
Yeah.
That is it. He wants to take over, and that is it. And the cult actually worship the parasite as a religious symbol. They feel it's a gift that they've been given. They feel stronger. And all throughout the game, there's no other villains with other agendas. I mean, yes, there's Wesker behind the scenes or whatever. But essentially, every member of the cult, every leader of the cult, they all believe in the cult and they follow the cult, and that's it.
Yeah.
So for me, the cult element was stronger in that one. In Village, it felt like it was only there for the sake of making you feel like this place is weird, but it wasn't really built around it.
Yeah. Now there was stuff there, but not enough answered.
Yeah. You would have actually liked a little bit more. Like,
yeah,
game is a good length, but it's like, I'd be okay with this being a little bit longer to flesh this out just a little bit more.
Yeah. Would have been nice. Yeah.
I have a feeling on this next one we are going to agree again, unfortunately. Okay. But we'll see. I'll be surprised if we don't. Both games, and one of the things that makes them very similar is that they both feature a merchant character.
Yes.
So Resident Evil 4 has the merchant, Resident Evil Village has the Duke. Both talk to you at various points in the games, both have like safe music when you meet them, both sell you things, you can sell things to them. Both are very memorable characters and distinct characters in their own right. Which one was done better? I look, come on, there's no fucking around here.
Okay. Well, the merchant will always hold a special place in my heart. So I do have more light for him. And at least every time you saw him, there was a higher probability you were getting new stuff rather than with the Duke. But when it comes to a story element, the Duke is better because...
Wow!
Because he's he's not explained. But there's like a somewhat of an explanation as to why he's there.
There's something going on with him, right?
Yeah, he actually helps you. Well, the merchant and the other one is just he's a game gimmick, just made a physical form. But oh boy, I don't know which one I prefer, because since 4, every single one you wanted afterwards, you were sort of like, ooh, I want, like with 5, ooh, I wonder what the merchant's going to be in 5. Like that was kind of a question.
Yeah, and they didn't really have one, right?
Yeah, no, they didn't. It was just at the end of a mission, you could just buy stuff and upgrade stuff. It was kind of like, wait, why?
Like, why isn't there a merchant? Come on.
Yeah. Actually, just have the merchant back. That would have been great. Well, from a story perspective, the Duke is better. But from sort of a getting new weapons and stuff like that, I think the Merchant was better.
Yeah, so which game did it better though?
Eight did it better.
Wow. Does that hurt you to say?
Sorry, say that again. Siri decided wanted to talk to me.
Fuck you, Siri. Stop haunting our podcast.
Yeah.
I was wondering if it hurt you to say that the 8 did it better.
Kind of, because the Merchant it's the Merchant, he's still cool.
Yeah, I will look at if we're going on a points-based system or something like that, I'm giving it to Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
I think Resident Evil 4 did the Merchant better for a couple of reasons. One, they created an iconic character with a lot of mystery around him. That's literally just a gimmick. It's just a gimmick. That's all it is. It's just something for you to buy weapons, and it's a fun thing, and it's never explained. But everyone was then quoting the Merchant, and I not only did they do it better than Village, because the Duke was fine, but I was actually like, why isn't it just the Merchant? Like, just bring back the Merchant. I would have been fine. And I said that before. I would have been fine with it. I don't even care if it makes sense. Like, can you imagine if one of those trailers had ended with, "What are you buying?" I mean, would have lost their shit, right? It would have been so exciting. But I don't give a shit if it makes sense, to be honest, because I'm like, that's just a gimmick. Like, I'd been fine with that. I mean, I'm looking at Ethan sticking his fucking hands on. I don't give a shit if it makes sense why he's here. That's fine. But also, I think the Merchant from Resident Evil 4 is the best video game merchant of all time. I've said it. There you go. I think
about a merchant.
He should be in every video game. He should be the fundamental video game merchant.
What? You know what?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What are you buying?
He's just always there.
In every game.
Just make him like public use. So he's just now going to be in everything. He's
just available. You know what he would say to that? You know what he would say to if they agreed for him to be everywhere? Thank you. Come on, he's so good. I give it to Resident Evil 4 for that one. Come on.
Fair. You made some good points there. You made some good points, yeah. I mean, I would have given it to him, but then I was just thinking about the story element and the fact that the Duke plays a role while also being a game gimmick. No, so he was covering two bases, but
oh no, I hear you.
That's not hurt because I do like the Merchant from 4.
That's the only one where we've slightly diverted on. Tell me this then.
All right. I'll tell you this now. Will I tell you this?
Let me ask you this. Welcome to a podcast in general. Both games are also compared because they blend action and horror. Okay. So, to take both of those elements separately for a second. So, like, to take horror on its own first, and then we can look at action.
Okay.
Right. So, which game handled horror better? And I think before we answer that, there is a moment where we have to consider hello, how do my THs work? Consider the timing of which they came out, right?
Yeah.
There's things you can do now that you couldn't do back then, if you get what I mean. So within what was possible then and what's possible now, which one was a scarier game?
Well, this one's a tough one, considering the age I started to play Resident Evil 4. And like I used to only play the start. And the minute it got nighttime, I was like, nope, I turned it off and start the game, new game, like never saved. And it took ages. I think Adam convinced me to just keep playing the game.
Yeah.
So I was very scared of the game at first, but then got quite used to it. I can't really remember if it ever haunted my dreams. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But then Resident Evil 8 has got the baby.
Resident Evil 8 has got the scariest sequence in a Resident Evil game, hands down.
Yes. I like the fact that they were like, oh yeah, this could be so not as scary. And it's like, really? And you give us a freaking baby?
But actually, when they said that, I suppose, and that speaks to the kind of argument here in a way, is the whole game scary? Or did they just like dial it up to 11 for like one chapter and then everything else is like, it's kind of okay?
Yeah, the whole game, most of the game is pretty, but once you're past that baby, the rest of it's fine.
Yeah.
The rest of it's fine. I mean, the first time when you're first surrounded by the Lycans, that's quite like,
that's intense.
That's very intense, but not really scary, but it's intense.
And then it's building on an intensity that was also in Resident Evil 4, which was like the surrounding of the house and everything.
Yeah, surrounding the house and stuff. Resident Evil 4 probably because for me, because I was very young playing it and it was scary. You got a bunch of guys coming at you with axes, and then you blow off their heads, and then a parasite comes out. You'd be very on edge. Oh, this is a tough one.
This is a tough one because it is hard to like transport back to a time where you don't know about these other games post PT, right?
Yeah, but not just that. It's hard to also transport my mind back to first time playing Resi 4 and my feelings towards it.
Mm-hmm.
This is so many years ago. Because now I put that on and it's a cakewalk, no different than Resident Evil 8. But I do still vividly remember being like, what the fuck with the baby, and then having to pause it because mom was like, oh come on, let's go get chips. So I had to go with mom to get chips, and I was genuinely dreading to even go get chips. Like my heart was still stopped, like. And
but I remember, so... I wish I had it recorded really, but I have like fond memories of when I was playing 8 and I got to that point and I was just like, I was ringing you and I was like, be real with me, am I gonna have to hide from shit here? And you were like, I'm not telling you. I was like, no, come on now, do I have to hide from shit here? And then like fight, and then I think you just waited like 5 minutes later. I was like, they've gone too far. I was like, I can't do this. I applaud them. Fuck this game.
Yeah. So I think 8 is scary.
Okay.
Than 4. Because again, if we were to pick up 4 and play it, like, we're probably not going to remember everything about it, but we're still going to be pretty okay with it because like the first act is daytime, then it's nighttime. The only scary thing about the nighttime is the guys coming towards you in the village.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of once you get to the big house and you have to defend the siege, thereon it's pretty okay. Mm-hmm. I think the only character that's truly the most terrifying is Dr. Salvador. That's the chainsaw.
Yeah, but there's also like then later on in the game the regenerator, or
there's
the blind guy. There's the blind guy with the claws.
Yeah, they're not scary. They're just irritating.
But I would find like that kind of stressful playing scary, where
generators.
My heart's in my chest, and I'm like, I want this to be over. This is horrible. Like, I'm dreading this scene. Or it's like you remember that's coming up, and you go, oh no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, but that's like always the baby scene.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Well,
that baby, you know what? Actually,
then on points, right? So the baby's scary, but then you play it and you're fine.
Yeah.
Your heart still gets a bit, oh god, but you're fine because you know.
And in fairness to 8 as well, the intro is scary, and I don't mean the intro in the house, but like the first time walking through the woods, your first encounter to like in the atmosphere there, it's done incredibly well. That's all really scary.
Yeah, that's all really scary. But then Dr. Salvador and regenerators are also always going to get you going because you have the hearing the chainsaw and you're like, oh shit, and then there's hearing the music with the weird inhaling breathing thing, like they got asthma or some shit, the regenerators, that they kind of just wobble through the doors. Oh, this is tough, Chris. This is tough. I can't pick one.
I'm gonna say, for me, I'm gonna say 8 hands down has the scariest part.
Yes.
Right? Hands down. 100%. Of any Resident Evil game.
Unless you're Adam.
Yeah, no, fuck that. And even like, and the fucking dolls, everything, that whole Silent Hill sequence. Also, to be fair to them, one of the best sequences in a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, it's very good.
Absolutely incredible. Like, amazing. I remember watching Maximilian Dude play it. People should check that out on YouTube. And he got up, he started clapping. He gave Capcom a standing ovation for that scene. He was like, "Thank you, Capcom. I hate you, but thank you." Like, because it was just like, is blown away by it. And like, I felt similar in a way where it's like, I don't want to play this. I applaud you for doing this. You have gone too far. I love this. And I hate this. Even try to go down to that well. So Resident Evil 8 hands down has the scariest sequence. But after that, the rest of it is like fine.
Yeah.
And actually, because of where that's placed, nothing can scare you after that. Nothing can, no matter how hard it tries.
It's very early actually in the game.
Yeah, like it should be later, I think.
Yeah.
Because it should be at a point where you've built up so many weapons that to have them taken away from you makes you feel more powerless. But
So thinking.
But I would say Resident Evil 4 on an overall experience, not only do the janky controls make it scary, like it's harder to play. So you get surrounded easier and then you fucking panic. But not only that, as the game goes on, like the dark comes in later. Then these hooded figures come in later. The regenerator comes in later. So they constantly bring in new things to scare you. So as an overall experience, I'd have to give the horror to 4.
Yeah, now that is a fair point. When you brought in the baby coming in earlier, that did make me think about. You have Dr. Salvador at the start, which is scary with the chainsaw, and then towards the end of the game, which is supposed to be the military base, and you're being a badass because you got all your stuff. They bring in a regenerator, which scares you again. So yeah, that's fair. Resident Evil 4 probably would be scarier. Yeah.
And again, giving context to its time as well. Like obviously, if you go back now, some of the graphics, the graphics are obviously
good. But that regenerator is so terrifying.
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, the graphics for 4 are amazing, especially for its time. But obviously, graphics have come like there's no point in putting graphics on the board here because obviously, Village's graphics are better.
There was a time though we looked at 4 and we were like, "Oh my god, can't get any better than this."
That was the fucking peak. But then on the other side of that, then so we separated horror and action there for a second. Which game tackled the action element better?
Well, I mean, like you said, the previous one, the fact that you have the janky controls, it makes the action it is more action-packed, obviously, than the previous Resident Evil games. And I introduced that more action-packed element into Resident Evil as a series. But due to its janky controls, it's hard to be more action-packed than Resident Evil 8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, you do have that point at the end where you have the helicopter Mike coming around and blowing everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not quite as good.
Well, that doesn't top the bit at the end of Village where you play as Chris Redfield and you go Modern Warfare 2 on the fucking Village.
Yeah, and it's like Hans Zimmer drums playing while you're at it.
Yeah, unbelievable. Another like amazing sequence.
Yes. So I think action-wise, 8 would have done it better.
I am right with you there, and I think it's funny because to look at, I think on first like impressions, you might go the other way around, where you go, well, Leon's an action hero and he gets bolted up with rocket launchers and everything. So obviously that's the more action focused game. And look at Village, it's creepy and dark and gothic. That's obviously the horror game. But if you play through the whole experience, the fact that the 8 is in first person and the action is more fluid, and you still get shitloads of weapons like shotguns and machine guns and all sorts later on. I actually do think it does action better than 4 does. Because with 4, like, yes, you get more weapons, but those controls never get any more pleasing. Versus in 8, the more weapons and the more ammo you get, the more free you feel to fucking mow down Lycans. So later on, you're like, bring it on.
Yeah, that stronghold sequence where you're going.
Yeah, that's another one where it's like,
shocking and you're just popping everybody.
Yeah, it's like there's sequences where it's like it's full on. Let's go kill some monsters. Like, At least after this, there will be one less to worry
about. Okay, which of those are the better quotes?
Do you want to put that down? Quotes. Okay. Which one has the more memorable quote? It's 4. I'm sorry.
It's 4. Like, there's no description here.
I spent Resident Evil 8 quoting 4.
Yeah.
It's 100% 4.
Yeah, no, this 4 doesn't have. Yeah, it doesn't have as good quotes.
You mean 8?
Sorry, 8 doesn't, because 4 has that always 80s action hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, like 4 is
cheesier
in that sense. 8
cheesier.
is trying to be a little bit more sincere
And gritty, like Chris Redfield's characters completely. Like, that's one thing these two do, actually. 4 and 8 is reinvent two of the main protagonists to the series.
Well, on that note, which game had the better protagonist? And there's a couple of ways of looking at that, but obviously we can have our own opinion. But like, not just in terms of how they're performed, but also how they're written. Like the whole thing, like, and from a story perspective, like which game actually had the better protagonist? And it's totally up to you which one you gravitate towards and why.
Ooh, that's different now. That's different. Talk about writing, how they're written. Because Leon's cooler.
100%. No one can debate that.
Way cooler than Ethan. But his story, character, motivation is weaker. Because he's just doing a job.
Yeah.
That's it. While with Ethan, he's doing the one thing I would hope any parent would do, which is go to any lengths to protect their child.
Mm-hmm.
Save their. I think Ethan. Comparing those two games, I think Ethan's the better one.
Wow.
Like, Leon is cooler.
Yeah.
Right? He's way cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I had to choose between playing as Ethan or Leon, I'd want to play as Leon. As long as he's voiced by either your man from Resident Evil 4 or Matthew Mercer.
Oh, why not the dude from Resident Evil 2 Remake?
Well, he's fine for Resident Evil 2 Remake, but when they put him in Infinite Darkness, and that was supposed to be set after Resident Evil 4, I was like,
yeah.
No, this is not right.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong here. But yeah, to choose between the two of who to play, I'd play Resident Evil. I'd play Leon. But Ethan's character development and twist around the character and everything about it, he even had the hero sacrifice and everything at the end.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Spoilers for both games. We should have said that early on. I'm sorry. If you're watching this on YouTube, something did come up earlier on with spoilers on it. But
okay.
On audio, no, it didn't.
No. So I think him. Like, he went through more, and I think his character development was better. And I think the voice acting was a bit better for him in this compared to 7.
So there was an improvement on Ethan's character from 7 for definite.
Yeah. So I think,
Plus, I remember I found it so hard to, like, I don't know. It's weird to me. And like, we spoke about this before when we were comparing 8 and 7, actually, where it's like in 8, right? You're looking at that cute baby at the beginning. Such a cute, innocent little thing. And it's his own daughter. And she's just a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And these horrible fuckers have her, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, fuck you. I'm going to get her back. Like, you motherfuckers, I'll go through hell to get this baby back. I'm not leaving a baby in a place like this. It's it felt a bit like Labyrinth in a way, the David Bowie movie or whatever. Like, you don't leave a baby in a place like that.
No.
However, in 7, it's like, once that fucking psycho starts chainsawing at you, bitch, we're done. I am out of here. I ain't looking for you. I am done. Fuck you.
Yeah. Get the hell out of there.
We are over.
She sticks a screwdriver in your hand.
Honestly, I don't think I would have gotten into the house. It's like, I know she's missing and I'm worried about her, but like, as soon as I see like hanging crows and shit, I'm like, no.
The first thing you do is you go up to the house, right? You go to the gate, you're like, oh, the gate's locked. And then you turn to the left, and there's this fence with just cow's legs creating a circle. You have to crouch under it. No.
Okay, so wait, she's been missing. The email was mysterious. This house is definitely haunted to fuck. And there's a cow mural here. Calling the police. 100%. Fuck.
And even when you go into the house before you find Mia, like, all the food is rotten, everything is disgusting. You even watch a video of guys going in So like,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
house is haunted, and then they die.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of buy Ethan's motivation in that one where it's
To
like,
keep going.
yeah, no, actually, I'm leaving.
May call the police. May call the police here.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is not good. So for Protagonist, then you're giving it to 8.
I'm giving the Ethan 8. Yes, I think he's developed better.
Okay. I am going to give it to 4.
Ooh, okay.
I think I agree with everything you said in that I think on paper Ethan is the better protagonist.
Right, yes.
Right?
Okay.
This is kind of like a Metal Gear Solid 2 thing.
Okay.
On paper, Raiden is the better protagonist. He's more interestingly written. He's got twists. He's got an arc. He's quite like he is a likable hero on paper. But due to the fucking performance, and again, not bad in either case, not bad. Raiden wasn't bad. Ethan wasn't bad. But Leon and Snake are so much cooler that I'd rather be them. So
fair.
in that sense, I take Resident Evil 4 had the better protagonist and probably the coolest protagonist in all of Resident Evil.
Oh, without a doubt, Leon is the coolest protagonist in all of.
It's him, and then maybe Jill Valentine.
Jill Valentine's pretty cool. Ada's pretty cool too.
I love Ada. She's not a protagonist though, right?
As much as Catwoman would be, because that's what she is. She's the Catwoman of Resident Evil. She
kind of is, yeah. I love it. You never know what she's gonna do. You never know what she's gonna do. Okay, so we've talked about protagonists. Next, it would make sense to talk about antagonists. Both games feature a lot of bosses, and not like other games where, like, there's a lot of Resident Evil games where like there's a clear boss or like 2 bosses. Say like Resident Evil 2, right? William Birkin is a boss, and Mr. X is a boss, right? And maybe Chief Irons if you want to include him. After that, it's random monsters. Yeah, there's just a random monster as a boss. Versus 4 had a cast of bosses, like outside of just the El Gigantes and things like that. Like I had an actual cast of bosses that you will have to take down and fight at some point. And so did 8. Who you meet pretty early on, and you know, I have to take all these down at some point. Which game had the better bosses? And again, we could put this down to the quality of the boss fight, the design of the characters, the way they're performed, whatever it is, but which game ultimately had the better bosses?
Okay, right. So just as far as cast of bosses go in a collective, I would say 8. They're more fleshed out. They're motivated. They each have their own unique areas. They're all quite unique as well in themselves. And yes, their boss fights are quite unique too, which is very cool. So I'd say it's cast of bosses, 8 did it better. While when it comes to the main antagonist, I say 4 did it better. If you get what I mean.
I get exactly what you mean. I'm right with you. I think 8 did. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm right with you. 8 had the better cast of villains. Mother Miranda could have been.
She could have been. She just didn't.
She's well designed. She is scary in her ability. Again, it's a thing of like on paper, she is a more interesting villain than Sadler.
Yes, because she has the motivation.
Her motivation is more understandable in a way.
Yeah.
Her design is sick. Even her creature design is sick, but it is similar in a way to Sadler.
Massively. The minute you see her, like, oh, Sadler.
Oh, it's Lord Sadler. But what she's lacking is that thing of screen presence, which Lord Sadler absolutely has. When he comes on screen and talks, you're like, oh, that's the main villain.
Yeah.
100%. Whereas Mother Miranda, the light is actually taken from her by her far more interesting subservience.
Yes, because she's barely in it. Well, she's actually in it loads. You just don't ever realize.
Yeah.
And they kind of then shoehorn that part in at the end, I think, a little bit.
So I'm right with you in that I think Sadler is more is a better performed or better executed villain than Mother Miranda.
Yeah.
But all the other the rest of the cast of villains. Like
Mm.
Krauser is great,
Krauser is great.
but after that, the other ones like Salazar is kind of laughable.
Chief Mendez barely.
Chief Mendez is fine. He just seems like a hunky henchman character, but
Yes.
nowhere near as interesting as Lady D or
Heisenberg
or Donna Beneviento.
or
Like
Dr.
she's
Moreau.
fucking terrifying. And
Very
even
good.
Dr. Moreau, who we don't get a lot of, but even he was interesting.
Yeah, no, he was interesting just on looking at him. This grotesque fish-like person with the with the self-made crown on his head. Yeah, no, he was. I suppose he was the Salazar kind of. I know he wasn't in the castle, but he was the Salazar of it, the kind of small weakling who has to become a giant
In a way,
monster to
Yeah.
fight you. While Demetresque is the giant who's constantly stalking you, like Chief Mendez. And
Yes,
she's like an
I
unstoppable
get you.
force.
Yeah.
And once you kind of wound them, they take on their monster form. With Chief Mendez, you shoot a barrel. Leon definitely has a line there. I can't remember what the line is. Bon voyage, is it? Or
is it not
kicks over
just
the bar and he says something?
is it adios,
Oh,
asshole,
adios,
or something?
adios.
No,
that's great.
Hasta luego or something like that.
Something like that.
It's something like
Leon.
that. Yeah. Go on, Leon. No, you're right. And actually, Heisenberg would be most similar to Krauser in that
I prefer Krauser to Heisenberg.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah,
I prefer. Yeah,
Heisenberg is somewhat fleshed out more than Krauser.
Yes,
so it's a little like, okay, Krauser's here for a cool knife fight, but I don't really understand why he's a villain or why he's. Oh no, he's working for Wesker, isn't he?
He is working for Wesker. Oh, Albert, what do you like? What do you like? Cool. So we think 8 has the better. I would like to say though, maybe this should be a separate one. Boss fights. That's separate because that's all the boss fights. Which game had the better boss fights?
Does that include like hunting giant like Moby Dick and everything? Like,
I think it includes everything. Yeah, I think any boss encounter. So encounters is probably more accurate because you technically don't fight Donna Beneviento.
No.
You know, for example, but she would. That is, and then like the giant Bloodborne style fucking werewolves, there probably count as boss fights. In the same way as the El Gigantes would, you know.
Okay. Right. So you got the El Gigantes in 4 and the giant Moby Dick. I actually never figured out. Is that a fish? Is that a whale? Is that an alligator? What is it?
I think it's an alligator. And I think it's not only because it's in like a lake, which would make more sense, but also I think it's a reference to like the alligator from Resident Evil 2.
All right, okay. Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
All right. Then you have the thing. Remember the thing?
I fucking hate that thing. No, I actually do, and I didn't try to be funny. Actually, I hate it. I don't like the way it's designed, and I hate that sequence.
Yeah, it's in the Predator. The Predator's hunting you down.
Yeah, that bit's cool. The Predalien.
Yeah. It's cool, but it's also annoying because the whole freezing thing. Then you have Chief Mendez, Salazar. Do you count the big robot then? Jason after you?
I suppose you would. Yeah, that would be a boss encounter.
What else was Krauser the knife fight, and then Krauser again in the ruins, and Sadler. Am I forgetting any others?
I don't know.
And then with 8, you got each of the vampire women, I suppose.
Yeah.
Each of the daughters, Demetresque, Moreau, Beneviento, Moreau, Heisenberg, the Bloodborne werewolves. Do you count the giant guys too?
Yeah, you would.
Guys with the hammers.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
And Mother Miranda.
They're kind of actually pretty even on the amount of boss fights.
I think 4 definitely has more boss fights.
Boss fights, boss encounters. Yeah.
But which one does it better?
Well, probably, to be honest, thinking about all of them, 8, in that they're all very different. Like even taking on the daughters, each one of them is different. It's the same tactic, but each one of them is different.
Mm.
Even when it comes, like, I know with the hammer guys, you got to fight them, but like they're still somewhat different. The Lycan things are really cool. Moreau is different to Heisenberg because with Heisenberg you get into a weird plastic tank thingy.
Oh man, I laughed so fucking hard. I was actually hysterical, but not in the way of like, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe like the kind of laughter you have when you're watching The Expendables or something, where you're like, you're having fun, but also this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you're absolute, and you're loving it, and you're like, yeah, unreal. I had a blast doing that. Total shit, but I loved it.
Yeah, I know. I think
Tank had a chainsaw.
Tank had a chainsaw, and you blocked his chainsaw with your chainsaw.
Yeah, and instead of just using his powers, he turned into a scrap monster.
Yeah. Instead of turning your guns on you.
Yeah.
Or turning the chainsaw on you.
He was harder to fight before he turned into something big that I could hit.
But they always do that. They always.
I know. They're like impossible to kill, and then they grow an eyeball, and it's like, oh, great, a weakness.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
days. Thank you. This made it easier. So you think 8 ultimately had the better boss fights?
Yeah, based on the fact that each one of them is quite different. Different tactics, different approaches.
I can't believe it, Eric. I'm right with you. All right,
okay.
4 has more boss fights, and I think, again, on a surface level, when you think about the two games, because you can't remember that many boss fights in 8, then you'd go, well, 4 obviously has the better boss fights. There's way more. But a lot of them are very similar.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, each of the...
You shoot, you run to the other side of the room, you shoot, you run to the other side of the room, you keep buying yourself time, and then something, and then you can go over and knife, you know?
Yeah. All the Gigantes are the same.
Yeah. Like the couple of ones that stand out, for example, I always enjoyed the one with the Del Lago because it was different. It's not hard, but it's different. You know, you're throwing harpoons instead of shooting. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
With 8, there's enough variety in there that each moment stood out more to me and is a little bit more memorable. Like I remember every single boss fight versus before I'd have to go, oh yeah, how many was there? You know, again, both have great boss fights. I'm not saying 4 has bad boss fights, but I think of the two, I think 8 does the boss fights better. So I'm right with you. Okay. Here's one I want to try out there, right? We're fighting through all these bosses, fighting through these, the cult and everything. General enemies then. Which game has the better enemies?
That's not fair on 4. Because I do think
this is why I think this discussion is interesting, because I think on a surface level, if someone's to go, which game is better, Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 8? Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4,
obviously. It's iconic.
Come on.
And I agree with that. I'm not trying to like say, you're wrong. I agree with that. But if you break it down into certain elements, there are certain things where, and obviously 8 learned from 4. Like 8 has 4 to tank for where it is.
Yeah.
But there are certain things I think it was, with the technology it has today and with everything it was able to do, it was able to improve on. So do you think 8 had the better enemies?
Well, I think they're way more iconic. They're way more uniquely designed. I mean, if you think about 4, like, yes, it's the first time you got a zombie game where you're not fighting zombies, right? They've kind of reinvented the type of zombie enemy you're now fighting. It's people using axes but they're still just people. And now it's gotten to a point where you got these people, and then you got 5 as people, and then in most of 6 is people, right? And sure, they mutate and everything, but it's a lot of just people. But when it comes to zombie games, which there's a huge variety, there's so many zombie games, the ones you're going to think about that are the most interesting are things like Dead Space and The Last of Us, because of just how interestingly designed they made them. And then when it comes to werewolves, of course, it's all the big hairy with the snouts and all that sort of stuff. But then you get to the freaking 8, And yes, they are lichens, they're werewolves, they're hairy men. They're gone back to that old wolfman design, but then they're still using weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And the way they move and the way they climb. Oh my god, the engineering and design of them is class. The vampires are so cool as well. Because again, vampires nowadays are all sexy and they glow in the sunlight and whatever, right? Or they're really easy to kill and they run at you in the middle of a nightclub and you shoot them and they explode in the fire, right? And one or the other.
Hell yeah, Blade.
Yeah, awesome. But then you got these vampires, and they're all skeletal with these robes and shit, kind of stumbling like they're zombies as well. Which, it's the old undead style vampires. I think Resi 8 has just more iconic looking enemies. It very much stands out compared to the rest, because you had slow zombies, then you had infected humans, and now you have the lichens and the vampires and stuff. You know what I mean? I think, so 8 had the better ones.
Oh, I think this is a tough one. In that, one thing that I really like about the enemies in 4, apart from like the real monstrous ones you meet later on, well, first of all, there are a lot of unique designs. Like when the parasite thing first came out, pops out of the head, you're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And you can't really compare it to something you've seen before.
No, that's true. It
so
is
that is
reinvented.
Quite unique. The other thing is to have these very human-looking enemies at first was not only unique for a Resident Evil game, but I thought it was quite unique for a horror game. And there was something really creepy about that. There's something wrong with these people, but they're not fucking zombies. Like, what the fuck is going on here? So I thought that was really interesting and scary in and of itself. And then there's something incredibly iconic. I suppose he more counts as like a sub boss, but Dr. Salvador just became iconic to the point where some of the covers of Resident Evil 4 were his silhouette. In the forest, like that bag on the head thing was so scary, so creepy, and so original. Maybe they got it from somewhere. I don't know. I mean, it's slightly inspired maybe by Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I suppose. There's probably an element of that. But I think ultimately I'm probably going to go with you that it's 8. Because, those lichens are just fucking incredible the way they move and design incredibly well. Those thrall vampire things, again, incredible the way they move. They sound scary. They look scary. Those little details that they are all actually women is interesting. Even the ones that fly and being like gargoyles and all are fucking cool. The big Bloodborne style wolves are fucking terrifying, and the ones going around, they've already got spears stuck in the back of them and everything that tell stories and how many battles they've been in. And I think like a lot of that helps in terms of like where the engine is at nowadays, where graphics are at nowadays, that these kinds of enemies can exist in a game like this. Like, it'll be interesting to see if we ever got that remake of Resident Evil 4 that everyone wants. Will we then prefer the Ganados, these creepy humans who will be able to move?
You know what? That if they do remake it, I would love for it to be remade. That'll probably end up being way scarier.
Yeah, and then like we go back and we're like we gave the point to 4 for the horror, and it might really fucking prove how scary it really was if it's updated. If it's like, if the only thing I was like, these graphics aren't that scary. It's like, if it gets updated and you're like, oh, fuck this. And it's like, see, it was always scary. It's just that it might maybe needed to be modernized. Yeah,
because considering they now like to put in the stalker characters,
what's going to stalk you? Are you going to hear the sound of that chainsaw revving in the background as he's looking for you?
Yes, you're going to hear the sound of it, and then you're going to hear in the castle. Then it's going to be the blind guy. So it's not going to be loads. It's going to be one, and you're just going to hear his claws scraping against the castle grounds, castle floor. As he's walking after you. And so if you make noise, he'll know where you are and he'll come run after you. And then on the island, it's going to be the regenerator. And you're just going to hear its breathing when it gets closer.
Well, you know what? That's a game I can't wait to never play. I hope they do it.
I'll tell you how it goes.
Yeah, you fill us in. Okay, last one.
Last one. Okay.
Last one.
All right.
Another thing that there's lots of other things that these games have in common. So like just even like collectibles, going and shooting medals or shooting goats or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go into everything, right? We're looking at some of the bigger elements that's like, oh, you can draw very clear comparisons there. And in terms of the quest or the mission or the story, whatever that is, in both games, your character is only there because they are looking for a young girl. Very different age categories, of course, but they are, of course, looking for a young girl. Which game tackled this particular topic better?
Well, this sort of led me to pick Ethan as the better protagonist between the two games, not necessarily within the franchise. I want to make that clear in case anyone was thinking, what? They chose Ethan over Leon? It's like hold on.
In the context of the story.
The context of just the two games and the stories and the characters' motivations.
Yeah.
I thought Ethan was better. And then in playing that, I think the whole having to get Emily, Eleanor, what's your daughter's name?
Rose?
That's the one. I was close.
Yeah, you had one of the letters.
I was in the ballpark, different state, but I was in the ballpark.
You had names. You were saying names, all right?
I said yes, and they're usually used for females. Those names. Usually. Yes. So I thought with Rose was better because at least when you find Rose, she doesn't have to scream out your name, going "Help me," because she, spoiler alert, is ripped to shreds and melted into jars. And I was like, oh my god, you went so much further again. Well, not again. This is before before the baby,
this is
but still
dark and twisted.
My god, I love it. Give me more of melted babies. No, not really. That shit's messed up. But it was such a good twist. While with Resident Evil 4, you got the infamous Ashley, which made everyone hate escort things in games.
Yeah.
So I think 8 did it better.
I mean, I'm not going to beat around the fucking bush here. Of course, 8 did it better, but and the reason being, right? I mean, there's, in one sense, the kidnapping of Ashley Graham is, from a motivation standpoint, a better story.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because the fact that she is the president of the US daughter, and their whole plan is to infect her and send her back to infect everyone, essentially, or mainly to infect her father, so that they have control over the United States very quickly.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's like, that's a cool villain's plan, right? With the Rose thing, it was like, it felt a little bit shoehorned as to the plot of like, well, Rose happens to be the daughter of this person, which makes her special, which makes her the perfect candidate to hopefully, possibly decrystallize and recrystallize as this person's daughter, in the hopes that she gets her daughter back.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's slightly messy, right? It's messier than the Ashley plot. However, I want to save Rose. I think everyone can agree that Ashley Graham is fucking annoying. She's so annoying. Like, in one sense, it's part of the charm of the game. Everyone remembers the Leon, help, right? And it's like, oh, Resi 4, what do you like? But while she's the drive that you have to go find, every time I find her, I fucking hate that I just found her. Because not only is she fucking annoying, but the game itself gets annoying when she's with you. Because now you're focused on people picking her up and taking her away while you're dealing with the enemies. And you get that annoying animation that's almost like one of those Arkham animations of them taking her away into the fucking abyss. And then you got to do it again. And you're like, I don't want to do it again. Fucking escort missions. So the fact that there's no escort mission with Rose makes Rose, and the fact that Rose is adorable and it's horrible what she's going through, the poor little thing, I do feel like that motivation of looking for her is a far stronger one than looking for fucking Ashley. Yeah. I will say, though, it was interesting, that sequence where you have to play as Ashley. Not that it could be done much better in a remake, but it mixed up the gameplay a little bit.
It did mix the gameplay, but it's compared to when you have to swap characters.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Which game did the better character swap?
Like even
100% Chris Redfield.
Even Sevens was better.
Yeah,
because Sevens was to play as Maya, and you take out a machine gun, you're like, what the hell, Maya? Let's fucking kick some ass.
Let's do this. I like you again. I forgive you for cutting me up.
Yeah.
So, guys, that's where we're at. We went through like some of the bigger main elements that we could think of for Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4, and kind of just a fun debate as to which did which element better. This isn't about which game is better. That's not what it was about. It's just which did which. Because actually, in the end, we gave more points to 8. But the overall experience, I mean, that depends on who you ask here as to which one we prefer. We'd actually love to ask you guys. So not only on YouTube can you jump down in the comments and share your thoughts on the certain elements. Maybe you think we were way off and you're like, fuck you, Resident Evil Village is way scarier, or fuck you, Resident Evil 4 has way more action, especially with those action kind of one-liners. It does the action better. Maybe you feel that way. Let us know. But not only that, let us know which game you think is better. Do you prefer Resident Evil Village or do you prefer Resident Evil 4? Jump down in the comments, let us know. And if you enjoyed this discussion, please give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to the channel to show your support. Click the notification bell for future content. If you guys have been listening to this on audio platforms, actually on Spotify, we'll have the question there. Which do you prefer, Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 8? So you can answer on Spotify. But otherwise, on any other audio platforms, you can touch base with us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Brothers Take to give your take on which game is better and which game handles which element better. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Hope you've been enjoying playing Village over the last year, and we'll be back to talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.